let us have no illusions about the Prime Minister's character and his personality. He has authoritarian instincts, he has dictatorial tendencies. The intention of Modi and Shah is to suppress all free speech and make the entire spectrum of the media landscape captive to their interests. The ideology of the RSS can be summed up in 6 words. And let me repeat these 6 words for the benefit of your viewers. We shall show Muslims their place. We shall show Muslims their place. Nothing more, nothing less. That they live here, they eat here, they cohabit here, they work here only on terms we, the Hindus, set for them. Now
in other words, they will live on sufferance.
That is Modi's ideology. That's how he was reared. That is Shah's ideology. But there's another aspect of this majoritarianism, which is not formal political domination, political or social domination. It is hatred, demonization, vindictiveness, spitefulness, treating those who do not belong to the Hindu faith as not just other, but inferior, as subhuman.
Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's speech in Rajasthan over the weekend has shocked many people, and it raises the critical question, what will a third-term Modi government, particularly if he has a sweeping majority, mean for India? In a perceptive article in the Calcutta newspaper The Telegraph, my guest has analyzed this prospect. Joining me now to discuss his views is the well-known and highly regarded historian and the well and widely read political commentator, Ramachandra Guha. Ram Guha, let's start with something that you at least believe won't happen if Modi wins a third term, even with a sweeping majority. You write, we won't see the political domination experienced during Indira Gandhi's emergency. I should point out to you, most people are fearing precisely that. So why do you come, in a sense, to a contrary conclusion?
So, Karan, first of all, let us have no illusions about the Prime Minister's character and his personality. He has authoritarian instincts, he has dictatorial tendencies. Nor should we have any illusions about the ideology of the RSS and the BJP. It is one of Hindu supremacism and the permanent relegation of minorities to second-class status and the shutting off of all dissent and free thought. So on that, we should have no illusions. At the same time, there's a difference between having dictatorial tendencies and having the means to carry them out. Now, one very major distinction between the emergency and today is that during the emergency, the Congress was in power in all states except Gujarat and in Tamil Nadu. And in those 2 states, the opposition governments were dismissed or their tenure came to an end within a few months of the emergency being promulgated. So the dictator, the putative dictator Indira Gandhi, had control over the political, administrative, media apparatus of the entire country. Today, the putative dictator, Narendra Modi, has control over large parts of northern and western India. Let's assume he wins a third term at the center. The BJP will still be in power in very important states like UP, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Assam. But opposition parties will be power in other states. Important states all across the south, but also West Bengal, Punjab, and so on, which constitute more than 300 million Indians. There are still some spaces in the media. Again, it's important to distinguish between intention and effect. I underline that. To distinguish between intention and effect. The intention of Modi and Shah is to suppress all free speech and make the entire spectrum of the media landscape captive to their interests. That's their intention. But the effect is that they cannot do it. For example, the conversation that you and I are having would have been impossible during the emergency, partly because there was no digital media, and partly because there weren't opposition spaces available. So I think one has to be nuanced about this. Their intentions are very clear, which are dictatorial and authoritarian. Their ideology is starkly manifest. This is bigoted, hate-filled. The demonization of all those who are not Hindus, and including the demonization of those Hindus like you and me who may disagree with some of their policies. But given the diversity of India, that fact that such large parts of the country are ruled by state governments opposed to the BJP, and sometimes fiercely opposed by people who won't just capitulate, Vijayan of Kerala and Mamta of West Bengal are not just going to capitulate overnight. So I think there will be a tussle. It will be a bitter, hard tussle. But those spaces to oppose full-fledged authoritarianism, full-fledged majoritarianism will still be available and will be used.
Now, as you say in your Telegraph article, and I'm quoting you, there will still be popularly elected governments in place in large states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, West Bengal, Telangana, and even Punjab. So how do you think Modi and Amit Shah will seek to handle these? Clearly, as you said, people like Pinari Vijayan and Mamta will fiercely and staunchly resist. So what will be Modi's response?
So already in their second term, I think there's been a shift. So with the coming in of Amit Shah in the cabinet in the second term, it's been much more authoritarian, much more hardline, much more explicitly Hindutva. It's Hindus first, religious majoritarianism much more marked. And in this second term, with Amit Shah as Home Minister and Modi as Prime Minister, between 2019 and today, they have tried to suppress, squeeze, intimidate all state governments that are not entirely beholden to them. If you are like Naveen Patnaik in Orissa and doesn't trouble them, they won't trouble you. But if you stand for the interests of the people of your states, like Stalin does, or like Siddaramaiah and my state does, or Mamta does, or Vijayan does, they will send governors to harass you, they will centralize powers, they'll interpret the constitution so as to move more and more items from the concurrent or state list to the central list, for example, as they've done with cooperatives, which for them is a cash cow, and which are really grassroots bodies, which not be controlled by Delhi. They will deny you legitimate resources, as is happening now in Karnataka in the case of the drought. So they will continue all these punitive means to try and bring these governments to heel, but these governments will resist because they are legally and lawfully elected. They have been elected by the people of their state to rule their state, whoever has been elected in Delhi to rule the center. So this tension will continue. It will intensify. It will further weaken the social fabric, the federal system. But of course, Modi and Shah believe in taking no hostages. They will think that if they get a third term, there's still a big if, but if they get a third term, they will go even harder at undermining, weakening, indeed destroying state governments that they don't control.
But the bottom line in your article in the Telegraph is crystal clear. You write, India is very unlikely to return to the authoritarianism of the emergency years. No matter how hard Modi and Shah might try if they win a third term, because there are strong, powerful, independent regional state governments with leaders like Pinari Vijayan and Mamta Banerjee, there will be resistance and we won't see a return to the authoritarianism of the emergency years.
Yes, but that should not make us complacent. We have stopped short of the abyss, but we are still in a dark and we will still be in a dark and dangerous place.
Absolutely. And this brings me directly to the second part of this interview, because it's in terms of the social fabric of the country, and perhaps more clearly in terms of the thinking and behavior of many people, that the picture that will emerge in Modi's third term, you fear, is very different. You say the stigmatization of Muslims will sharpen, the screws on the media will tighten, the independence of the civil services, the judiciary, and the public regulatory institutions will be further undermined, whilst central universities, IITs, and IIMs will become centers of Hindutva propaganda, and the structure of Indian federalism will grow weaker. In other words, it's not our politics so much as our society and its values that will be damaged, perhaps even substantially destroyed.
Everyday life, and these will be destroyed, these institutions, these practices, these ways of life, these social relationships, peace, harmony, sustainability, diversity, institutional integrity, will be damaged, possibly irretrievably. Because they already started doing this in the second term, Karan. They have already co-opted large sections of the media. They already subordinate the bureaucracy and the diplomatic corps, as the example in Ireland shows, to their interests. They have deeply damaged our scientific research institutes and our IITs. IIT directors have become, many of them become closet Sanghis. If you look at, some of their statements. So they're attacking the states, as I've talked about. They're harassing and intimidating minorities. They're telling Muslims, you can live here. You can have access to water. For example, just if you allow me to divert for a bit, Mr. Modi's apologists sometimes claim that in the Ujjwala scheme or the clean drinking water scheme, Muslims are also getting water in their taps and a gas cylinder. But that's not the point. That's all they can get. They cannot get first-class citizenship. They cannot become MPs under the BJP ticket. They cannot become heads of government institutions. No Muslim will ever become chief of army staff, and so on and so forth. So this kind of continuing humiliation of Muslims and possibly even of Christians and Sikhs will intensify, because the third term will give them, they think, the license to build a full-fledged regime of authoritarian thought control and a regime of majoritarian Hindu control. But of course, as we've already discussed, this will be resisted in different ways, and we are in for rocky and difficult and indeed very interesting times.
In fact, as we approach 2026, when delimitation of parliamentary constituencies is due, there's a further development that worries you, which is likely to happen. You call it the political subordination of the South. For those who aren't aware what the impact or consequence of the delimitation could be on the South, can you explain what is this political subordination of the South that you so greatly fear?
So, what's going to happen is, based on the census, whenever it is done, it is already 3 years late, which has never happened in 150 years of the Indian census being held. Whenever it is held, it will show that growth rates in the north, not among a particular community, but among a particular region of India, are much faster than the south. And according to democratic principle of one vote for one person, they will be rewarded with more seats. That means the south, which has performed better in population control, in giving women rights over their bodies, which has performed better in many other indices, social, economic, cultural, institutional indices, then the north will be punished for doing better. And there are ways of redressing this anomaly. You could still allocate Lok Sabha seats according to population, while having a check in the Rajya Sabha, so that even the less populous states have adequate representation, so that their interests are heard. Because we are a federal system, we are a union of states. We are not one country, one election, one leader, one ideology, etc., etc. So I think these tensions will intensify. In 2001, when the time for delimitation first came, the political class collectively, collaboratively, in a consultative fashion, decided to defer this by 25 years. Now, either it should be deferred again, or there should be checks and balances, such as I've explained, in the upper house, greater representation for the better performing states which have lower populations. Now, otherwise, the South will feel even more discriminated against. That, this is not, I don't say this, in haste. I say it looking at the sentiments of people in the South. I've traveled in all the states in the South, and they are deeply worried about this.
What you're suggesting, and in fact it's more than a suggestion, what you're fearing is that an incipient divide between North and South will emerge, becoming possibly, if it's mishandled, into a real divide. In other words, the danger of the country dividing into two, not breaking up, but dividing into two, creates its own sort of struggles, its own sort of political problems.
It will not break up. It should not break up. It must not break up, and it will not break up. There's no question of Bangladesh.
But we will have tensions. We will have north-south tensions.
We'll have tensions. We'll have resentments. So on the one hand, you have the first fault line, which is religious. Muslims feeling harassed, intimidated, made to feel like second-class citizens. Then you have the fault line of individuals. feeling the state is bearing down excessively hard on them, not allowing them free speech, free thought, free movement. Then you'll have not allowing them to eat what they want, dress how they have. Then you'll have the fault line of region. The South thinking that for all that they have contributed to the country, economically, financially, materially, culturally, they are treated with condescension, and indeed occasionally with contempt. So we should worry about this. Now, how does that happen? For example, I was listening to an interview with Revant Reddy, who is the relatively newly elected chief minister of Telangana. And he said, he was interviewing actually, he was doing a Hindi interview with an anchor who's known to be pro-BJP. And he very politely told him, he said, look, we have undivided Andhra Pradesh, which has 42 MPs, has one cabinet minister. He says Gujarat has 6. He says UP has 12. Now, I haven't checked the council of ministers, but this seems roughly right. This figure seems roughly right, that the South is, or it is represented, so I think these are things in which, so I think to the religious fault line, so there's a Hindu majoritarianism and there's a northern stroke western arrogance that is increasingly coming to define this government. And those who are concerned about diversity, pluralism, peace, social harmony, biradari, fraternity, should all those wonderful constitutional values should worry about.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.
Now, there is one grim sense in which Modi 3.0 will echo the emergency, but with a very distinct twist. You write, Indira Gandhi combined authoritarianism with a devotion to family rule. Now, Narendra Modi combines authoritarianism with a devotion to Hindu majoritarianism. And you add, while Parivarvad is bad, Bahusankhya is even worse. Can you once again spell out what is the worst element of Bahusankhya, which is the Hindi word for majoritarianism, that you so fear?
So, at one level, it is simply domination of one group based on their religious identity over another group which does not share their religious identity. That is what is the case in Pakistan, where this, or in Sri Lanka, particularly in Pakistan, to some extent in Sri Lanka, where the majority community's domination is encoded in law, in the constitution, in the social ethos. And this is completely contrary to democratic principles, it's contrary to our constitution, it's contrary to all that those who built this republic fought for. But there's another aspect of this majoritarianism, which is not formal political domination, political or social domination. It is hatred, demonization, vindictiveness, spitefulness, treating those who do not belong to the Hindu faith as not just other, but inferior, as subhuman. Now, this is very widespread on social media. It is there in comments of BJP MPs and MLAs, and it's there in a more subtle way, but no less dangerous way, in the speech that the Prime Minister gave in Rajasthan recently. So it is, Muslims are different, yes, but Muslims are subordinate, that too. Muslims are inferior, that too. Muslims are dangerous, that too. Muslims are poisonous, that too. Muslims, every Muslim, unless proved otherwise, is an enemy of the nation. That too. Now, this is the kind of absolutely poisonous mentality that has entered into the hearts, the minds, the souls of so many of our fellow Hindus in the last 10 years, and particularly in the last 5 years. And this will go on if they get a third term.
What you fear, Ram Guha, is that speeches like the speech Modi gave on Sunday in Rajasthan will become more common, they'll become proliferated, they will become emblematic of the sort of country we're becoming. And just for the sake of the audience, I'll remind them that was the speech where, directly referring to Muslims, he called them people who have more children than we do, and then he called them Ghuspetiyon, infiltrators. You're saying this will become commonplace in the third term.
So this is the Prime Minister. It is not T. Raja Singh of Telangana who makes these speeches all the time, who's an opposition MLA. It's not even Giriraj Singh, who's been a minister, who makes these speeches all the time, right? It is the Prime Minister. Now, at those eyes, inner feelings. Now, one could pass this and say it is strategy. They think they didn't do so well in the first term. They don't want to discuss unemployment and price rise. But it's partly strategy, partly worldview. Karan, some years ago, I wrote an article about what the RSS stands for. Now, the RSS is arguably the most important institution in the country, even more important than the BJP. You know, the most important individual is the Prime Minister, but the most important institution is the RSS. And I wrote an essay based on my study of what the RSS ideologues down the decades have fought and argued and believed in. And I said, the ideology of the RSS can be summed up in 6 words. And let me repeat these 6 words for the benefit of your viewers. We shall show Muslims their place. We shall show Muslims their place. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, what does this mean? It does not mean we will do what Hitler did in Nazi Germany and kill all the Muslims the way the Nazis killed all the Jews. It doesn't mean that. It means we will show them their place. Unki औकात दिखा देंगे. If to use a colloquialism from Northern India, they will have to, it'll be make it evident to them that they live here, they eat here, they cohabit here, they work here only on terms we, the Hindus, set for them. Now,
In other words, they will live on sufferance.
That is Modi's ideology. That's how he was reared. That is how Shah's ideology. So it is not fringe elements like T. Raja Singh or T. Raja or Giriraj Singh. Now, this is what comes out at times like this. You know, there's a superficial veneer, there's a global statesman, there's a person talking about solar energy and climate change. That's one. But this real hardcore belief, because that's what he's grown up with. That's the kind of fundamentalist ideology he's grown up with.
But Ram Guha, in your Telegraph article, you say quite pointedly, it may start with Modi. He may be the person that pushes it down the line, but it won't stick and remain with Modi. You write, and I'm quoting you, majoritarianism poisons the mind and the heart. The hate and bigotry that it engenders spread like a cancer through the body politic, robbing individuals and society of civility, decency, compassion, of humanity itself. In other words, this majoritarianism, which may be pushed by Modi and by his government, will actually end up being an attack on the Indian people, on their lives, on their values, on their system.
It will pervert and destroy their minds and souls. They will suffer. The Muslims will suffer more, and the country will suffer most of all. And you see it around you. You see it, what people are saying. If I was just to reveal the contents of my inbox or the comments on what I write, and others, people who with my views, write, you will see this, that the intense vitriol and venom against those who are not Hindus, and again, I would like to add, even those Hindus who don't subscribe to the hate-filled ideology. I mean, it is really, it's frightening and it's disturbing. And now it has been endorsed by the explicitly endorsed during election time, not in a private conversation, in a public speech during election time by the Prime Minister himself. Now, one last point, before we come to the next question. I hope the Election Commission acts on this. I worry that they may not, because they may be spineless. They are appointed by this government. But it's a test of their credibility, their independence, and it's a test of where Indian democracy and Indian pluralism is going. If they don't act, it's terrifying. Because it means the Prime Minister can get away with anything.
But beyond the Election Commission, what you fear is that the Indian people, and maybe Hindus in particular, who pride themselves on their tolerance, on their broad-mindedness, will actually end up becoming very different. Majoritarianism, like the cancer that poisons the mind and the heart, will change their behavior, their attitude, their feelings for each other. Our society is in danger of becoming, to use your words, perverted and destroyed.
Yes, it is. And significant sections of the Hindu community already have gone down that road. They can stop, they can think, they can reflect, they can take another road, they can recall their better selves. That's still possible. It would require wise and enlightened leadership, patient work at the grassroots. But and there are two ways. One, the Prime Minister, I think, at one level, may think he has gone too far in his speech in Rajasthan, which is why, as a story in The Wire documented yesterday, those crucial paragraphs have been erased from the Prime Minister's website. Right now, but that may be not enough, because it's everywhere. It's been circulated. You can still say, I was wrong. That's not what I meant. Muslims are equal citizens. That's not going to happen. So essentially, the way to check this is through non-violent democratic resistance, in word and in deed, by those who oppose majoritarianism, by those who fear this will destroy the country, its institutions, its past, its present, and its future.
But tell me something, Ram Guha, because this thought will have occurred to the audience as they listen to this interview. If even in his third term, and if even after winning a sweeping majority, Modi does not control South India, does not control large and important parts of East and North India, then why can't the absence of his political domination act as a check on what he will be doing to the social fabric? In other words, can't states like Karnataka, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Punjab, Telangana exercise some restraint on the terrible impact that he's likely to have on the social fabric of the country?
They will try. But the center has many more powers. One of the things that Modi and Shah did during the pandemic was to further strengthen, the powers of the center. A majority will give them a certain license, a legitimacy. And of course, if you look at the history of Indian governments, central governments, really since 1977, it's been when there have been coalition governments that the press has been freer, the judiciary has been more independent, and federalism has been more robust. So the best check on what they are likely to do is to make sure that the BJP does not get a majority. Now, that would still be the best option for all of us.
Okay.
All of us, if that does not happen, by all of us, I mean those who care for the democratic and plural ethos of this country, not for those who are willing to ride roughshod over it and construct a Hindu majoritarian state with Narendra Modi as its uncrowned king. Now, but even if Modi and the BJP get a third successive majority, you will find that the southern states, the other states, again, one last thing I'd say. As of now, there are 8 or 9 important states outside the purview of the BJP when it comes to the state government. After this general election, there are several important state elections that are going to be held. One is in Maharashtra, which has the second most Lok Sabha seats, which is the industrial and financial engine of the most important state in the country from the point of industry and finance. A second is Bihar, which is one of our most populous states. A third is Haryana, which is close to the center, close to Delhi, close to the seat of power. In these 3 states, the BJP is on a weak wicket when it comes to the assembly elections. It does not mean they'll lose, but they might lose. Now, what happens if Maharashtra falls outside their grasp? What do? They further divide the NCP and the Congress and the Shiv Sena and bribe and cajole people to join them. They will impose president's rule on Maharashtra a week after it falls outside their grasp. Will they do the same in Bihar, where you have again a declining JDU and so on and so forth? So what happens? So all this will continue. So the contest will continue. the democratic battle to revive and restore Indian pluralism and Indian federalism, the struggle to restore decency and civility and humanity in everyday relations. This will continue.
Okay. You end your telegraph piece with the following sentence. This is the most important election since 1977. Is it a sort of make or break moment?
I can't say, Karan. I think historians can't really anticipate what will happen in the future. They can use their knowledge of the past to illuminate the present. And I've thought about this very carefully. In my article, I argue that there have been, out of the 18 general elections we've had so far, 3 have been particularly significant. 1952, to show that a poor, diverse, divided, largely illiterate country could actually hold an election based on universal adult franchise, which the government of that time did. The second most significant election was 1977, when the Congress lost power for the first time after the emergency, to show we are not a one-party state. And this is the third most significant election.
Okay.
What will happen either way, I cannot say. That's not for me to, say.
My last question, if Modi wins, and there is still an if there, if Modi wins, do you have any sense of how long the night that could descend on us will last?
Again,
I'm asking you, I'm not asking you to make a prediction. I'm asking you as an analyst, do you have any sense of how reversible the process will be?
No, see.
Or could it be a long time before the sun rises again?
I cannot say any of that. I think the struggle to restore the fabric of Indian democracy, Indian pluralism, as I've said, the struggle to make Indians and Hindus particularly behave like decent and civilized human beings, that will continue, and that must continue even if Modi wins a third term. That's all I'd say. Even if Modi wins a third term, people who worry about what majoritarianism has done to countries like Pakistan and Sri Lanka must continue to carry on the good fight for the values encoded in our constitution.
Ram Guha, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. And in particular, thank you for awakening the audience to the terrible lurking dangers of majoritarianism, to the fact that it is a poison, it is a cancer that can run right through the body politic, affecting the mind and heart of honest, innocent people. That is the danger that you are warning the country about. Thank you for doing so.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch The Interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.